Luke Harper has returned to the WWE. Now, this is quite a surprise, given that the rumor for ages has been that Luke Harper will never return to WWE, and yet at Clash of Champions and the follow-up SmackDown, there he was side by side by Eric Rowan, and he was kicking Daniel Bryan's and Roman Reigns' ass. We still don't know why he did this in terms of the story, and we also don't know what the hell happened behind the scenes, because at one point he was asking to be released from the company, and you can still see that on his Twitter, and apparently the company turned around and went, well, not only are we not going to release you, but you've been injured, so now we're just going to stack on another 6 months to said contract, and you're going to have to wait around a little bit longer, even though we have no plans to use you on television. So when you take all that as one, I don't think WWE are actually going to push Luke Harper. That makes me a sad Sally. Why? Here's why. If we put on our thinking caps, which don't actually exist, you'd have to assume the reason that Harper was brought back in, because it was a nice way to progress the story with Eric Rowan, that made sense. And look, I ain't ever going to criticize WWE when they choose to make sense. The confusion arrives when you remember that throughout the weeks, throughout the years, throughout the months, we have heard things like Vince McMahon doesn't like Luke Harper because at one point he asked him to do a southern accent, and the southern accent wasn't very good. I mean, boy howdy, let's not even get into that. But really, all you have to do is look at his body of work, and he is a wrestling talent that has never really been given his due in World Wrestling Entertainment trademark or registered trademark. I mean, that's clearly why he was signed back in 2012. In 2012, it wasn't just WWE going around to all the independent promotions trying to get people to put pen to paper. They looked at Luke Harper and went, well, he ticks all our boxes. He's tall, he's got an interesting look, and look at the stuff he can do in the ring. I think we can manipulate this man and turn him into a WWE superstar. He proved this as well when the Wyatt family, which is the group he eventually joined, were feuding with The Shield, and they had an absolute barn burner of a match at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in 2012. I mean, go back and watch it and listen to the reaction when Luke Harper, who by the way is around about 6'6", so shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff anyway, but listen as he does hit that big dive over the ropes. Everybody goes crazy. They were invested in this bearded man. There was even a huge holy shib chant, and it seemed as if his stock was growing. But if you did think that like I did, what a fool you were. When Bray eventually set his buzzards free, it was kind of interesting because there didn't seem to be much of a plan. And usually when WWE does break up a faction, they have an idea of where they want to send each individual member. And Luke Harper did go into like a 50-50 booked feud with Dolph Ziggler. But this is where all these bizarre vignettes started happening. And indeed, the boss, Vinnie Mac, said to Luke, I think you should do a southern accent. And while it wasn't the worst thing in the world, for some reason it just ticked him off. It was a perennial black mark against Luke's name. And that doesn't really seem that fair, given that on paper, his job's description is professional wrestler. I mean, I guess Kofi Kingston's Jamaican accent was better, and that's why we forgot about that. But let's also not forget, at one point, Triple H was doing a French accent, so I think we should just take accents and throw them out the window and realize that doesn't equate to a good or bad professional wrestler. Even with all of this though, he did have some kind of connection with the audience, and that was not only proven when he moved on to a feud with Dean Ambrose that was exceptionally violent, but also how excited the audience got when there was a hint that he may be inserted into the Bray Wyatt Randy Orton WrestleMania program. People were actually saying, hey, if they're fighting for the world title, I'd like to see Luke Harper in it. Why the hell don't you make it a triple threat match? Think of that, and it's one of those moments where I just can't figure out why we don't just pull the trigger sometimes. And let's remember what we did get at WrestleMania when Wyatt did take on Orton. Not only did Randy have a bunch of sperm on the entranceway as he was making his way down to the ring, but in the ring itself, we had overhead projector maggots. Luke Harper being in this would have made it far better. Obviously that didn't happen because it wasn't the plan, and Luke Harper's new tag team with Eric Rowan, the Bludgeon Brothers, never really got going. But even with all of that, it kind of seemed like Luke had enough tenure to just be accepted as a WWE guy. And sure, he may never make it to the world title scene, which sucked on one hand, but not everybody can make it there. You have to be a bit fair to those in charge and goes, I understand you can only a select feud, but surely he would be involved in some good programs and some good matches as the years ticked along. Instead, after he did get injured and was forced to take some time off, everybody who was backstage started to rally against him. A match he had down in NXT was considered rubbish by Vince McMahon. All he did at WrestleMania was be in that Battle Royal. And then for some reason I don't think we'll ever know, unless you can ring up Vince and go, Vince, can you tell me what happened? It was decided that it was Luke Harper's fault that the relationship between Ethan Carter III, also known as EC3, and Drake Maverick didn't work. They had a match on Main Event or something like that, and they were trying that pairing out, and clearly it didn't make everybody happy, and that was Luke Harper's fault. I mean, talk about carrying a weight on your shoulders that you don't deserve to be carrying. It killed his planned feud with Sami Zayn. He was taken off the road, and that is when Luke said, maybe you can just release me if you're not going to do anything with me. They said, nope, we're going to extend your contract, and there were even more murmurings that he kept reaching out to Triple H, but the game kept on ghosting him like they had met on Tinder, and Trips had decided he didn't want to go on another date. That is the most 2019 sentence you'll hear this year. That'll change in September 2019 because according to the speculation, he finally did get a phone call and he was told to be at Clash of Champions on Sunday. And as I do say these words, we don't 100% know how it's all going to play out. In the long run, is it just going to be another tag team between Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, or is it going to become a brand new faction with Daniel Bryan heading it up? I mean, there's been teases that we're going to get that tag team match at Hell in a Cell, but it doesn't mean Daniel Bryan can't turn his back on Roman Reigns and become the leader of Harper and Rowan. Let's face it, when it does come to Luke and Eric, they do seem to be like to be led. They're always in a group. When you do take a step back and go through all the info we've just been through though, it's hard not to come to one of these two conclusions. And that would be, number one, the only reason he was brought back is because, again, it made sense for Eric Rowan to beat Roman Reigns, but WWE couldn't come up with a way to protect Roman. So they were like, well, Luke Harper can just beat him up, and then, Roman doesn't really lose. And also, two, his contract is going to be up in a few months, and nobody in WWE wants anybody going to All Elite Wrestling. And it's here where the worry does come into play that WWE is never actually going to push Luke Harper. They will use him for what he's worth, and as soon as they're done with him, or when they get a bit bored, he will go back to being on the shelf. I mean, look at Gallows and Anderson. Gallows and Anderson signed brand new contracts with the WWE. They became tag team champions for all of 32 seconds. And when that was done, and I guess WWE thought, well, we've locked them down now, they slowly started to slip down the card. And as I say these words once more, I'm not 100% sure what WWE plans to do with the OC. AJ Styles will be fine, but that group doesn't really feel like it's on fire. Now, there are the alternatives to this. Look at Sasha Banks. She came back, brand new contract, and she's being pushed to the moon. But the difference there is, if you do go through the past, Sasha always seems to have been one of the chosen ones by WWE officials. Outside of this, look at what has happened to some of the other pushes that we've been teased recently. Buddy Murphy just doesn't exist anymore, and he was just kicked back to Australia or something like that. And apparently Vince McMahon even told writers to bury Cedric Alexander. Now, I'm going to pretend that's not true, because why the hell would you want to bury anyone, especially somebody like Alexander, who clearly has talent? But that's what people are saying. I like to think it's a lie. I do hope I'm wrong about this, because I really like Luke Harper and think he does have something. Again, you don't have to push him to the moon and make him the brand new John Cena, but there are plenty of feuds he could be inserted into, and Luke Harper would make it better, especially because he's really unique. He's got bizarre facials, and I mean that in a positive way. So why the hell don't we give him a chance to prove it? And let's say I'm wrong. Okay, it doesn't matter. We can move on, but at least we'll have the evidence to go, let's not use Mr. Harper. He didn't do very well last time out. But if that happens, I will knock myself out with my own fist. So we will see where we're going to go with this Harper and Rowan storyline, and I will actually feel a bit better if Daniel Bryan does get inserted into it as their leader, because Daniel Bryan is considered a top guy, and he can put a protective blanket over those two. But I just worry in around about 2-3 months we'll be here once again going, what the hell happened to Luke Harper? At one point he was closing SmackDown and Clash of Champions. Now we're putting his face on milk cartons. Either way, Luke Harper, if you ever do watch this, I want you to know I think you're vastly underrated. I think you're a great professional wrestler, and I will always have your back. I know that doesn't account to anything, some bald-headed asshole on YouTube just singing your praises. Sometimes it's just nice to hear good thoughts to you. I mean, that's not a real thing. That was just me basically flicking my spit at you. But once again, I'm with you. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about Luke Harper. And if you were running WWE, how would you book him? Like, share, and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles. Give What Culture a follow on Twitter, What Culture WWE. Watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you very much for watching the Why series, the series that asks the question why. That doesn't work, that's just me repeating myself, but remember, it's always there to play devil's advocate and get you thinking even when you don't agree with the subject. Why else are we even here? Have great days, and there's some love. Again, not real, basically just flicking air at you.